boy. All right. Good evening, Instagram. Good evening, Facebook. Welcome to Joel's College of Swing Era Knowledge. Tonight is teacher organizer discussion. Okay. Let's get to it. I don't think tonight's going to be very, very long, but I want to give a big thank you out there to everybody that's been participating in the nightly College of Swing Era knowledge events. And just due to commitments and kiddos and everything, it's just been a little tough to go every single night. And so go ahead and like the Retro Rhythm Facebook group and or the like page. And we're going to be putting out some more content, but not as frequently. I did have a session going on the Trickeration Jazz series, and I will be doing that the next 2 Mondays. But after that, it'll be like a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday kind of thing, leaving some other evenings open for family, setting up some other specialty workshops or private lessons virtually. So just couldn't keep the nightly grind going, but it's all good. Let's focus tonight on our teacher organizer discussion, and this is going to be on level reviews. So if you are, and when people think about level review, they think about, oh, that's got to be a big weekend event where you have to have a level review. But I'm also going to talk about in your own hometown communities some things to consider when it comes to levels and having your dancers progress in your own community versus a bigger event. So let's get to it. I want to talk about the keys to any level review procedure, whether that is a weekend workshop, like I said, or your every night, every week kind of activities in your hometown community. First of all, you've got to make sure your levels are clearly defined based on the goals of your event or your community. Now, this could mean, and I'm going through some things that I've seen events do, but also, again, local community stuff. This could mean the amount of time you've been dancing. Some people will say, well, you can't be in this level or you can't progress to this level of class unless you've danced for X number of months, years, etc. I don't know personally if I'm a fan of that criteria, because I have seen brand new people get into the dance, work very, very hard in a few weeks or a few months, and quite honestly, their skills are beyond someone that's been dancing a year or two who just comes out once in a while. So, but again, if it's a criteria that you want to set for your event or your hometown, that's fine. So time dancing could be considered. Previously workshops taken. I've been to events where attendees actually fill out a form prior to the event listing all the previous events / workshops, what levels they were in, and all of that. Within that, there's usually a teacher referral section where this would typically be where you're what some would call the highest level, or sometimes people label it as the master level, which always makes me laugh. So when you've mastered the dance and you get a recommendation or a referral from other teachers, and you have to have X number of referrals, things like that, to prove your level. What you feel your dance level would be locally in your scene versus globally. Now, that's the big one, right? So locally, you might be dancing a lot in your hometown and you're doing your stuff, and you might be one of the better dancers in your hometown. But if you go to whatever event where it's more of a global, international type event, where would you sit globally or internationally? And sometimes we don't know that. If we're out in our own little bubble at home with our dancers that we always dance with, that's going to be a little bit different when you go to a larger event. So that's where you need to reach out, I think, to the organizer or the community leader or international instructors to ask where you might fall globally versus locally. and sometimes actually listing out skills that you have acquired or feel that you've acquired. And all of this, can be gone through and determine what your level could be at the event, or like I said, in the community itself. I think community in itself, I think we obviously are keeping kind of tabs on our dancers. We see the work they're doing, the things that they're going through. So this little section here might be more toward a bigger event. But again, it's your event, so you decide what is your criteria, but what are those levels? Make sure they're clearly defined. If you just say beginner, intermediate, advanced, but don't put some clarification around what you think that is as an organizer, that's going to create some ambiguity for anybody that's attending. That's the dancers, the teachers that might be teaching at your event, maybe even for yourself. So again, you need to decide what that is and define it really clearly. So then we, as community leaders or organizers, we need to clearly communicate the procedure to all the dancers and instructors. And again, this goes for an event. And I'm going to go through some event things in a second, or locally to your dancers and to your local teachers, because it's inevitable that someone's going to come up and say, hey, I'm really interested in this class, or I want to get into that level. Well, if your hometown teachers don't know what that process is, or for a bigger picture, if you don't even know what that process is, then that's something you definitely want to consider for your hometown and your home community. So have things clearly defined, clearly communicate that to everybody through your website, through your other teachers, etc. And then number 3, everyone respects the process. If anybody deviates from the plan, and I would say especially instructors, the entire level process is compromised. I'm going to say that again. Everyone respects the process, the dancers, the organizers, the attendees, the teachers, especially the teachers, because if the teachers deviate from the plan, the whole thing is compromised. Okay. Now I'm going to go through some scenarios that are probably at a bigger event setup, and then get into some local community things as well. So for the next 5 options I have, they all have very similar pros and cons. The pros are everybody feels that they were looked at and the levels are clear for all. So this is an event. We're focused on events right now, and events that have clearly defined levels, whatever that is. And again, that is totally dependent on the organizer. I've seen so many different descriptions of levels. I've been in events where there's 3 main levels. I've been in events, and I've had my own events where there are 6, believe it or not, 6 different levels defined for a dance. And we've done a very diligent job of cutting the dance into the 6 different levels that you could possibly be in this dance. So again, I laugh because it's been a while since I've run a big event, a couple of years, but I did it for over 10 years for multiple events, and it's an interesting thing to go through to define your levels. So again, the pros are everyone feels like they've been reviewed for a level review, and the levels are hopefully clear. The cons are the overall logistics. Whatever you're going to try to do in a level review, there's going to be logistics involved with it. There's going to be some tracking. If you're putting that importance on a level review, you're going to have to track the levels. You're going to have to move people around. There's no way like everything's going to be hunky-dory and everyone stays where they were assigned or where they think they are for the entire weekend. Things are going to come up. What's your process for moving people around? Added work time for instructors. Okay, and so that's got to be considered, because nowadays a lot of the instructors have that in their contracts that they need to be paid for that time. So you want to be mindful of that if you're really trying to be on a tight budget with your level reviews, or utilize people that don't need to be paid. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit. So these next few, everyone gets reviewed equally. Now, I wish I remember the event, and I don't know if they still do this, and I don't know of anybody that does do this, but this happened at one time. There was an event where the teachers that were reviewing all had iPads, and the iPad literally had a list of everyone in each level. And they actually programmed it where I'm watching and I think this person can be in this level. So I hit their name and what level they're in or where they should move to. And the person's name stayed on that iPad list until at least 3 teachers looked at them. And then their name was reviewed from the list. When I heard about that, I thought it was really cool. But I also thought on the side of the organizer, like unless somebody was really geeking out and really enjoyed programming all that and getting all those lists downloaded to those iPads and the process of going through the code and all that stuff, if somebody remembers what that event was, please comment. But again, I thought it was awesome, but logistically, how crazy is that? And again, you still have the logistics of trying to move people around and whatnot. But it would be the ultimate way that everyone feels like they were seen. Like literally the code did not allow your name to get off the list until you were reviewed by 3 people. Yes, I know the logistics of iPads and everything. So an additional con versus the pro of everyone being reviewed is the programming involved to make that happen and having the iPads available to all the teachers. So let's move on to number 2. I'm not sure how realistic number 1 is moving forward, but if somebody wants to do it, there's an idea that was out there. The groups get reviewed by level. This would be what I'm going to consider the norm, okay? And it's just watching people dance. People are typically brought in by level, and music is put on, and teachers are there with either clipboards or whatever that process is that, again, the organizer has deemed necessary for the level review, and people get watched dance, and they're either left in the level or they're asked to move up or move down. And again, you have to have the logistics of dealing with that, changing the wristbands out, having that conversation. And again, this is the norm, but here's the added con that I added to this one. Our dancers really looked at. Our instructors really committed to this process. I think over the years, we got better at it, but I don't know. I've been to way too many of these where I hear the talk of the instructors after it's over or even before it's over. None of them want to be there. There's a few that like take the job seriously. And again, a lot of them do get paid to do it, which they should definitely really take it seriously if they're paid to do it. But it's a process that it's flawed in the fact that there's no way I'm going to see everyone. People think that they're all being looked at and reviewed, but at the end of the day, it's a flawed system unless you can guarantee that everyone is actually looked at. And then the next con here is the complaints from the followers that say, well, I got stuck with leaders that didn't know what they were doing. And so, of course, my dancing looks worse than it was, and those situations pop up. And so, again, it feels like everyone is reviewed equally, but I don't feel like it's a very equal process. But, that's kind of the norm. And again, you as an organizer have a choice to do this or not. I'll give you my thoughts after going through everything on my list. So number 3, groups get reviewed by level, but the difference here is dancers are asked to perform a sequence of steps or a specific bit of material that a teacher might do in a class. Now, an added pro to this one is that the dancers in said level will know the expectation for a class, the material, the pace. So again, this differs from what I would call the norm, herding people in, grab a partner, make a circle, put on a music, and the teachers are walking around with clipboards, and there's no expectation set. It's just people dancing. So again, this one is you're asking a specific sequence. So we actually did this at Camp Oz a few times where, again, the levels were really set. And we even defined jazz steps that they should know, the tempo of music that they should know, and some foundation figures that should be within each level. So of course, as you progress down the levels, then you should have that skill set of every level above. So for example, and I'll just say beginner and intermediate advanced to make it simple. So the advanced level should have all the beginner and intermediate skills and dance at a certain tempo. So the teachers that started that level review, they had a song that was at that level or above. They did a short sequence that actually used the moves from the beginner and intermediate. And let's say it's like Lindy Hop, for example. Obviously, beginner is, you have a little bit of knowledge of the movement of a swing out, a circle, things like that. Intermediate, you have added jazz steps, maybe a certain sequence of figures or whatnot, side by side Charleston, back Charleston, etc. But then, so now for this level review for an advanced level, it was, here's the music, and the teachers get up and say, here's a sequence of moves that include beginner and intermediate expectations. Now, we shouldn't have to reteach that to anyone. So when it starts and you show those moves, and you're like, go, do this, you can see right away someone that can't swing out from closed, or someone cannot do a back Charleston or a side-by-side Charleston. When they get to that part, you can see very clearly people looking at each other or not sure. And again, the expectation is out there. The teachers taught at the level that, or kind of taught the level review sequence at what they thought it should be pace-wise and whatnot. And that was a real easy way to see who knew or did not know what they were doing. And it also gave the dancers in advance, because it's not like we sprung this on them at the event. It was on the website for the whole year leading up to the event. So they had a chance to actually work on their skills before they came to camp. And so that way you kind of acknowledge their dancing skill based on what you actually put in your description of levels, if you go to that amount of detail, if you will. Again, you have the dilemma of followers saying, I was stuck with a bad leader, and what am I supposed to do? That kind of stuff. So I'm going to bring up, so this kind of, I'll do it right here. So this brings in yesterday's discussion. If you had a chance to watch the Balboa Master the Throw Out through Solo Movement class that I did. And the reason I did that, and I did it right before this, is I had a personal experience and I can't remember if it was the 2011 or 12 Balboa Rendezvous. So this is what I mean by asking dancers to perform steps or a sequence. So at the rendezvous, I had 2 followers come up, and again, this is a very normal complaint that always comes up. We got stuck with leaders that didn't really know what they were doing, and they both felt like they should move up, and it was beginner. They were in the beginner-ish level. Again, I had 6 levels, so I can't remember the exact level out of the 6 right now. But the point is, they both felt that they should be in the higher level. They didn't want to be in the level that was assigned to them. And so there I was. I'm the organizer of the event. I know exactly what was listed as the expectations. And so both of these followers, in that moment, I said, show me a throw out. And both of them looked at me, and one of them said, well, I just follow. And I said, I understand that, but show me how to do a throw out. Do the movement on your own. And neither one of them could do that. Okay, so here's my point with this kind of level review, asking dancers to perform steps and sequences. If you're going to be an intermediate/advanced dancer, you should have knowledge of the foundation steps. You should have knowledge of it from the leader standpoint and the follower standpoint. And so in a level review where you're looking at not only dance skill, but in my opinion, also how someone will learn, that's why I don't like just putting music on and watching people dance is one thing, but how quickly do people learn? In an advanced level, we typically want to go faster with material and go over more things. Therefore, it's kind of important to pick steps up quickly. So I go back to that one where you're asking people to perform a steps and sequences, but they you can tell right away they're really confused and they're not even willing to try it, and they're out of their element. So you don't want students like that at a bigger event in an advanced level, because it's really going to bring everybody down. So here's these two followers that want to move up that don't even know the basic movement of a throw out. So in my opinion, and this is what I explained to them, I said, this is a foundation figure that is covered in the beginner level. My suggestion to both of you is that you should be in the beginner level, and I'd love for you to come up to me on Sunday at the Balboa Pavilion and answer this question again, because you don't know it right now, and this is going to make you a better dancer. Remember, there were two followers, and the one that was saying, like, I just follow, and I'm one of the better followers in my scene and whatnot, and that's fine, I get that, but what's your knowledge of Balboa? You might be a great follower or a great leader, but if you're unable to answer a very fundamental question of show me the movement of a throw out, and if you can't answer that, that tells me where your dancing skill is. That also tells me where your student level skill is of really understanding the steps. So the one stomped off, I'm sure, and again, it was either 2011 or 12. The event went till 2013. I'm sure I never saw that person again. I'm not even sure if they came to the dances. Like, she was livid that I tried to make her do this. The other follower looked at me, and I said, once again, it really is up to you. You could be in, and I think it was like 1 through 6. It was either like 2 or maybe possibly 3. But I said, here's what you need to do. I said, and the schedule was really clear too, and there was actually a class on the throw out for beginners set up in the event. So I said, if you want to stay where you're at, so it's coming back to me as I'm talking through the story. I think she was in level 2 of 6. And I said, you can stay in 2 if you want to. I highly recommend you go to 1. You go to the beginner level and really get your chops down. I said, you definitely need to go to this class. And I put it on the schedule. And I said, and remember, on Sunday, please come up to me and answer the question. I want you to be able to dance through a basic throw out, and how do what's the footwork, what's the movement, how do you go through the step? And she said, okay. And so, like I said, the first follower, didn't see her on Sunday, not even sure if she was at the event, probably didn't come back at all. But the other follower did find me on Sunday, and she said, thank you. And I said, can you answer the question? She danced through the basic throw out. She explained it almost verbatim like a teacher. I feel this stretch, I feel this release, the leader's going to pick me up, there's the come around right before it, and I get this movement, and my hips gather here because of the momentum and the lead. And I was like watching her, I was like, that's fantastic. And she said, I never really thought of it that way before, and now I really, really understand that move and this dance a little bit more. Like, there's a reason us organizers put these things together, the descriptions, the level review. It's for the dancers. But again, I go back to everyone has to respect the process. So that's the second part of my story from yesterday, mastering the throw out, and my own personal experience at the Balboa Rendezvous with 2 followers in particular. And I could have done that with leaders, and I could have done that at any level, so that you can assess where people are at in their dancing skill. So, and again, I could have said, just go up to that higher level. It doesn't matter. All right? And that would have been the easier thing logistically for me to do, but it would have compromised the process and compromised that level for everybody else. Again, I'm not saying any of these are better or worse. I'm just giving you my personal experience. Okay. Then we get to number 4. So remember, everything so far was like the groups got reviewed. That first one was equally on iPads. The next 2 were like group herd mentality of watching everybody dance. One was just dance. The next one was giving them a specific sequence of steps. Okay, number 4, self-assess. So you put yourself in a level, and then you attend a level review after the first day to possibly move up. This is, for example, like Swing Out New Hampshire used to do this, and I'm pretty sure Swing Out New Hampshire had a pretty extensive process getting information from teachers and whatnot going in. So I think this is like a combo package. They assigned a level, and you came in and you went through your first day of classes just to kind of see what it was like. And that first evening, there was a level review if you wanted to level up. So it was really only for those people, because let's face it, if you feel like you're in the right level and you've been placed, or if you self-assessed in the right place, you're good to go. There's some people that are really honest and like, man, that was a really tough day for me. I'm going to move down. There's never an issue, in my opinion, with someone that wants to go down to the level to add into their skills. So when, but this is with regards to a moving up process. And so at Swing Out New Hampshire in particular, certain teachers were asked to be at this level review, and we watched those students. So let's say there were, let's make it perfect math. There were 4 followers and 4 leaders in the intermediate level that wanted to move up. We watched them dance a little bit, and then we as teachers actually got in and danced with them. Now, again, this is something you may or may not want to do in your event or your hometown, but it is an option, and I think it's a good option, because then the teachers are literally dancing with the people for that feedback. Now, it gives the pros on this one, an added pro, is that everyone feels like they were looked, or they have the opportunity to be reviewed. So this is not a herd mentality level review. This is go to your first day of classes, and then there's a level review process later that afternoon or that evening. So everyone has the chance to be seen and move up. But the tough part is, again, like teacher involvement is a lot more, and there's obviously some tough talk that has to happen either between the teachers and those students, or if you assign someone to be that mediator or that person that's going to talk to the students after the instructors convene and decide on each individual if they should move up or down. I've seen students, they come to that level review with the expectation they're going to move up or maybe stay the same. And I've seen teachers dance with them and say, oh, actually, you need to move down. You want to talk about a tough conversation. But again, that's part of the process if that's going to be part of your level review. All right, so those are some ideas out there for you. Oh my gosh, and I just remembered there was a year, and I was sitting at either the lunch table, and someone was going to do the process, and someone said, just go do the Lindy chorus. Just dance the Lindy chorus. If you don't know what the Lindy chorus is, don't worry about it. But it was super awesome, because I'm sitting there going like, all right, this person's going to just go to the level review and just dance a choreography that they know, and the teachers are going to like move them up accordingly. I can't remember if they got moved up or not, but I thought that was a real interesting idea to go into a level review like that with a preset choreography that they were going to do. Oh man, so much good stuff. So many memories on all this. Okay, let's move on. Self-assess. At the event, the very first class, so there's no big level review process the first evening or afternoon. There's no big level review and the evening after the first day. You just start the workshops. And the first class is kind of used as that level review. So this is kind of a little bit like that Camp Oz scenario where we actually brought everyone in and taught a little mini class to see where they were at level-wise. You use that first class to see where people are at. Hey, welcome to the intermediate level. Here are the things that you should know really solid. We're going to start with this sequence. Here we go. We start teaching, and it does put a little bit more work on the teachers in there, or logistically, if you need to add more people in every level for that first class, so that they're looking and seeing who's struggling with some of those, dare I say, foundation moves, the things that they should already know going up to that level. So it's not done as a separate event or a separate little mini thing. You actually use it within your schedule, which saves some time for your instructors, because they would be teaching that class anyway, But again, you have that clear expectation as the organizer. This first class, maybe the first 15 minutes, is going to be used as a level review-ish type scenario. Again, you have all those logistics, all the moving people around, wristbands, moving this, moving that, who's going to talk to them, all that stuff. So you go with all that. And again, as an organizer, you define how detailed you need that to be. You want that to be in the logistics of having your teachers involved with all of that. Okay, for the next two are a little bit different, but they have some common pros and cons. The pro is there's no logistics or added time for anyone. It's just part of the weekend. The cons of these setups are the dancers will inevitably complain about the classes not being taught to the level. Okay, so these two are self-assess events, whether that's an event or again in your hometown, like you have classes and whatnot, and people are just self-assessing. You have various classes. The levels may be applicable or not on the schedule, depending on what's being offered. And if it's applicable, there might be a check during the class to see a level. So like in an event, I've self-assessed that I'm in the advanced level, so I have the advanced wristband. The schedule is set as it is, and the class starts, and there's no checking at all. And so I've seen events where you're set with this and we're just teaching, and I've seen events like this where we're set like this, and at the very beginning of class, everybody raise your wristband, and you need to make sure you're all in that same self-assessed level and continue. And then the last one is so again, there's no stress for me as a teacher. I just take a quick 1 minute to say lift up your wristband, or events have assigned someone to come in. Like, so the teachers are just teaching, and then like maybe 5 minutes, and it's a little disruptive, but it's cool. Somebody comes in, like level check, boom, lift up your wristband, make sure everybody's cool. I think they're also kind of maybe doing a little count, little inventory on how many are in there, and you move on. Teachers keep teaching. Okay, then there's self-assessing. So in other words, there's no review process. People are just doing what they do, and the classes are just open, varied classes. Again, the level might be important. The schedule might actually state a level or state like partner required in this, but no one is checked. There's nobody coming through checking the wristbands for levels. It's really, your self-assessment, and you just want to be in that advanced class or whatnot. Now, that obviously has no logistical issues. It doesn't add any extra time for the teachers. But the dilemma here is, and again, I've been to too many events, taught at too many events, seen too many events, where the teachers then in this class that's deemed as, let's call it intermediate level, and it's human nature. Everybody wants to be a little bit higher than they are. So the teacher has an idea of what they want to teach, and then put on some music, and they can see that the level isn't that high, and they make a decision to kind of, I'll just say it, dumb down their material. And even though in the schedule it says this is an intermediate class, people come out of it, and even the teachers know that they taught really at a beginner level. And this is where I go back to, everyone needs to respect the process. If anyone deviates from the plan, especially the instructors, the entire level process is compromised. Now, again, this is a level process of self-assessment, but this really brings in a huge responsibility for teachers. My final note down here, well, I'm going to talk about local communities in a second, but the biggest key to all of this working is teachers must teach at the level described as offered. I'm going to say that again. Instructors must teach at the level described or offered at the weekend workshop or even in your hometown. If this is teed up as an intermediate class or an advanced class, and there's descriptions of what that level is, you as an instructor, as a teacher at these events, you have the responsibility to teach at that level. Because in these self-assessed situations, The problem is if this event happens every year the lower levels are going to think they're more advanced than they are if the teacher dumbs down the material. Oh, I already know that. Yeah, you know that because it's a beginner material, not intermediate where it should be. Oh, so next year I'm going to sign up for advanced. But you get where I'm going with this? Every time a teacher dumbs down their material, it makes the student think that they're better than they are, unless a teacher is real honey badger in class and says, hey, everyone, we really need to go back to the basics. But again, I've been to too many events where this give and take happens, and then students think that they're better than they are. Then next year they sign up higher, but they really didn't get the intermediate material the year before, and it's a vicious cycle that keeps happening. In the trenches, it's the teachers that need to teach at the level and make it clear. Hey, everyone, this is an intermediate move. If you're really struggling with this right now, you may need to go back to the beginner level. In the most ideal situation, like a big hotel events and whatnot, where you have multiple levels going on at one time, or maybe venue-wise, one right next to the other. This has happened, and again, I'm bringing up a personal situation. We were teaching advanced Balboa in one room, and literally right next door was, maybe it was intermediate. No, it was advanced, and next door was intermediate. And so I'm pretty sure it was Allison. Allison and I started the class, and we hit the ground running because this was advanced Balboa. And what we started, we said, we're going to build on this. This is very purposeful what we did at the beginning of this class. We said, we're going to build on this. So we're going to start with this. It was like a very basic pattern, very intermediate pattern. And after it started, I stopped the music and I said, look, and this, like I said, here's our situation. We're not going to teach this. We're going to build on this. If you just had a very hard time with this, I need you to go to the next room, because that's an intermediate level Balboa, and that's really where you should be, because what we just showed you was very remedial intermediate material. And again, it was tough, and it was tough for people to hear. But again, if the student didn't want to respect that process, then they really, and there were some of them that stayed and really struggled in that class, because we went over and beyond what that intermediate chunk was. They couldn't even do the intermediate chunk. And they struggled, and I saw them struggle, and I talked to them afterwards. And I think the people that were really, really true with themselves and saw that, oh man, I couldn't even do this basic pattern, and they went next door, I have a feeling they had a better class experience. They probably didn't get frustrated with themselves. And for me personally, I was teaching long enough, and I didn't get frustrated. I knew what the levels were. It was very clearly defined. I knew what my class was supposed to be based on the description. And so I didn't feel bad at all, because I felt like I did my job as a teacher, making sure that I taught an advanced level Balboa class to those students. And I did have a few people come up to me afterwards that said, thank you so much for doing that at the beginning, because it really helped you, meaning me as the teacher, teach at the level it was supposed to be, and they got the material that they paid for. But again, that's me. That wasn't the organizer, right? That was me as the teacher taking that responsibility. So for you teachers out there, make sure you teach at the level that's defined. Now, you don't have to be an a-hole about it at all, but be really clear in how you're teaching, why you're teaching, and whatnot. And again, if you're lucky enough to be at a big event where you have multiple levels going on and you can send people to different rooms, great. But back in the good old days, I mean, the first two all Balboa weekends, how many levels were there? One. There was one level. We were all in the same room. Like the first few years of All Bal was we all didn't know anything. Everybody danced together. And over the years, now I think there's at least 6 levels at All Balboa weekend, if not more. At Bal Rendezvous, like I said, I had 6 levels. Like, it just makes me laugh now, because when I first learned Balboa, we were all together in one room. We did not have 6 levels defined. Right? And so if everyone's together, then you got to tweak your teaching accordingly and make sure you're adding material that caters to everybody that you're working with. Okay. Yeah, Valerie says it ensures that students continue to take classes if they get what they paid for. Yeah, I would be pissed if I was an advanced level dancer and the teacher said, "Hey, you guys, we got to go back down to like intermediate stuff because the group overall really can't handle the material that we decided to teach." Now, whether a teacher actually says that out loud, but the students are smart. They can see when you start to deviate your material or you're chatting in the middle and whatnot. So, um, yeah, all level classes are fine too. Yeah, yeah. If you might be in an event, we have a combination of the things I just talked about, all these like set levels throughout the weekend, and maybe there's some classes where everyone gathers in, and it's all good. Okay, so there's a laundry list of about I think it was seven different kind of level review processes, can of weeds. So you as an organizer, you organizers out there, and if you ever want any help or advice, let me know. I can be helpful to you. I've been through a ton of these. You have all kinds of different ways that you can do it. Again, I encourage you to make sure everything is defined really clearly, not only what your levels are, but what your process is, and make sure your teachers know that as well. Okay, so those are seven, going back, if you listen, it was actually seven different level review things that you could do at your event. Now let's talk about local communities real quick. Man, I thought this was going to be like a 15-minute discussion. Anyway, for local community organizers, are your classes clearly defined? Do you have set curriculums? Now, this isn't mandatory, but we want to make sure, especially if, for example, if you're in a town where you're teaching maybe at 5 different locations and you've got 5 different sets of instructors, what's that beginner class? Because what would be really interesting is if so and so teaches the swing out over here with a rock step, and then Johnny and Jill over here, they teach the swing out coming forward on 1-2, and John and Jimmy are teaching their version of a swing out where they do this like whip kind of thing, and then Valerie and Jackie are teaching their version of the swing out at this 5th location like this, and then everybody comes to the dance and goes like, what are you doing? I'm doing the Lindy swing out. Well, I learned it this way. Oh, I learned it that. Oh, I learned it this. And it's all good. Like, I'm all for that. But if you're a hometown hero and building up your community, you might want to have some consistency in how you teach at least the beginner levels. And then when they get to intermediate, then let them loose. And here's all these other variations that you can do. But at least then, if you have 5 different locations in your community, all offering beginner Lindy Hop, you know that all 5 are getting at least consistent, similar messages. Every teacher is going to have their own preferences of how they teach and maybe what they teach, but everybody should come out of that beginner process with the same ideas in general, right? And again, you don't have to do this, but you know, um, do you think this view about respecting the process and levels needs to be highlighted by the event, or is it something that is communal knowledge? Oh, okay. So Lexus brings up a point. It has to be defined by the event, because I've been to way too many events over the years where it's different. Like the advanced level. Let's put it this way: you might have a regional event and there's an advanced level versus a global event, which has an advanced level. I'm guaranteeing you that advanced level at the global event is much higher than the advanced level in the regional event. And now let's go locally. Let's say there's a weekend workshop here in Spokane for Balboa, and there's an advanced level, and there's a weekend workshop in Los Angeles, and there's an advanced level for Balboa. Nothing against my Spokane dancers, but the advanced level down in LA is going to be a little bit higher than the advanced level in Spokane. We're going to change that quickly, but you get what I'm saying. So wherever you are, whatever event you're doing, you really need to define what those levels are. I think I might have missed something here. because I see Jackie. Oh my goodness. Yeah, defined at the event. Wait, Jackie said something else here. I like our version the best, Valerie. What was our version? Oh, dancing with all levels. Dancing with all levels at the social dance. Yes, that's important. Being in the right level sets a student up for success. Absolutely. Sorry, everybody. I kind of missed these comments. I got on a roll. Don't take stuff personally at events. Yes, that's a great comment. Again, we're creating the event to make you a better dancer. So again, I mentioned that at the beginning. Everybody has to respect the process. So if you have an international teacher or the organizer of the event coming up to you saying, "I really think you should be in this level," woo, can't take that personally. You really got to be ready to move and groove. Okay, I think I'm caught up with the questions or comments. Very good. If I didn't, please pop it in there again. Okay, let's finish up with our local stuff. Are your local instructors trained and understand the beginner plan, especially and effectively? So if you are not doing teacher training in your hometown, I encourage you to do so, at least to get on the same page. Right? I don't necessarily want clones of me, but I want a consistent message for my community coming out of beginner classes. Okay. And again, people can teach their preferred style. Everybody has a different charisma. Everybody has different words that they use. But we should have a very good understanding of, if somebody walks through the door as a brand new beginner after 1 month, here's the expectation of what they should have down. Now, again, it might tweak and be a little different based on people that are teaching, but that should be clearly defined by you as a local community organizer to all your teachers. And if your teachers don't know that, they should. And if you're not getting together to talk about it and do some training, you should. And if you need help training, again, reach out to me or other international teachers that have done some teacher training and we can help you out. Okay, do you have a process that gets you into intermediate, advanced level classes? For example, one thing I encourage in my teacher training for communities is take the beginner. This is encouraged to the dancers. Take the beginner class at least 3 times before moving up to intermediate. Why? The first time it's a hot mess, period. The second time you're starting to move and groove the way that you should be. And the third time, listen to this closely, the third time you actually hear the things that the teacher said. You're just not ready. Think of any skill that you've ever tried to learn. The first time you try it, you're not very good at it. You start to get better at it, and then you start to hear your instructors say the things that they were probably saying all along, but you just weren't ready to hear it. Now, that doesn't mean, like, let's say after a month of classes, you've got somebody that's really gung-ho and they want to be in an intermediate class. I would say, now remember, our process is we want you to take the beginner 3 times, but I'll tell you what, you can take the beginner and the intermediate, classes together. Like, and again, that brings up, how do you structure your curriculum in your own hometown to make sure you can do that? What time is the beginner class? What time is the intermediate class? Maybe it's one or the other before. But if that person wants to do that, they really should still be in the beginner level for a second time, and dare I say, a third time. And what financial incentives do you give? I mean, you could just charge them the same amount for all 3 times, or give a discount the second time or the third time that they come back. And I guarantee you're going to have better dancers in your local community if they respect that process. If all of your teachers know about that process, then they can communicate it in their classes. Do you have set criteria or set routines for like a more intermediate, advanced, maybe like a performance level? Like down in San Diego, we have what I would consider the highest level performance team, and there's an expectation that they know the Shim Sham, the Big Apple, the Tranky Doo, the California routine, the Lindy course. If you don't even know what those are, you're going to be super frustrated in these sessions. So it's very clear what you need to know to be in that high level performance team. So, and again, you go to those classes or you take private lessons to get your chops up to speed so you can be in that level. Okay. Things like that. Or if there is an actual, like, you might, as a local community leader, do a little one of these level review ideas before starting a next class. Okay. And then what I really encourage any local community to do, whether it's a regular weekly class or a workshop every once in a while, do a role reversal workshop. This, again, I'm going to go back to my example at Bell Rendezvous, asking the two followers to dance the throw out on their own. I would ask that of any leader as well. If you want to fully understand the dance, know what it is to lead it and know what it is to follow it. Know what the rhythm is, know what the count is, know what the connection points are, know how everything works together. Now, if you have a role reversal workshop and really encourage even beginners to go to that, then they're going to understand the opposite side, and the whole level of your community is going to grow and grow because of that. Okay, so that is all of my notes. I can't believe that took 50 minutes. Okay, let me go back and see if there's any questions. Levels create clarity. Such a great topic, not just for the workshops, but for those who compete. Oh, that's true too. So we didn't even get into competition stuff. You might have, different levels of competition. Make sure that you're clear on those as well, because then you're judged against your peers versus any of that. Good stuff. That's a whole nother chat. Competitions. Do people use numbered classes, Lindy 101, et cetera, beginner? Again, that totally depends on your community. I know there's a community that had like Lindy A, B, and C. You have beginner. I mean, you could obviously label it beginner, intermediate, advanced. Different topics, different dances. I mean, that's, again, you as the local leader or event organizer, you need to define what it is. It's, the simple thing, of course, is, weekend workshop. You have beginner, intermediate event. Let's say you have a Lindy Balboa combo weekend regional event. And for both Lindy and Balboa, you could be beginner, intermediate, or advanced, right? So, or you can define it any way you want to, where it makes sense logistically for your event, or maybe more importantly for your hometown, right? So this is where you can get really, really creative, and maybe even talk to some of your dancers and say, what do you want for this community, and how far do you guys want to go? I've been to scenes where there's only 15 people in that dance community. That level is only going to go so far with 15 people. And the local teachers are doing the best they can, and they brought us in to raise the level. We raised the level of those teachers, and we raised the level of those students. And so, you might be in a community like New York or Los Angeles, where you've got hundreds of dancers and tons of workshops and things going on. So the level obviously is going to be higher. But hey, even if you're in a local community of just those 15 dancers, you can do the best you can. You can set some levels. You can reach out to people like me and other international teachers and pick our brains for what you can provide to your community, and raise the level, and I always say, get that one dancer to bring a dancer next month or next week, and that's 2. And 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, etc. And you will grow your community. And you got to be ready to grow your community with different levels and be mindful of what you're offering. So I hope I can't believe this was almost an hour. So there are some really nice comments and questions out there. Take a look at those. I hope that this was helpful to everybody. If you learned something new or just had fun hanging out with me tonight, please consider donating above. This is Joel's College of Swing Era Knowledge. And again, unfortunately, we're not going to go nightly. Check out the Retro Rhythm business like page. That's where we're going to be putting future events for the College of Swing Era Knowledge. I'm going to be tweaking all this material and probably starting a a Patreon account. So I've been going through teacher organizer stuff. There's a whole teacher training that I might be able to start online for people if you are interested. And I've been going through many of the dances of the swing era: Charleston, jazz, Lindy Hop, Balboa, shag. And so again, if you need help with anything with your events, which hopefully will come back sooner than later, with your hometown, with regards to our topic this evening, level reviews, please reach out to me. I want to be helpful to you. I hope you had fun tonight. Please donate. And as always, without further ado, night, night. Crazy about you all. Stay safe. Thank you.